I've been in the copywriting game for over 4 years. I've spent over $30,000 on mentorship. I've met the top dogs in the space, and I've also made over $1 million doing this. So in this video, I'm going to compress 4 years of no BS copywriting advice into this one video. So let's get right into it, starting with lesson number 1 or tip number 1. Copywriting is learned without courses. I want you to think about this. Copywriting is literally everywhere. What copywriting is, for those that don't know, is it's literally writing to persuade people to buy stuff from you or for a product or a service, etc. Right? It's all over the place. And the best way to actually learn copywriting is not from buying a course. Okay? I know that there's a lot of people on the internet that are literally making these videos to confuse you, right? It could be a video like this. It's super long. It's confusing, right? And then at the end of the video, they're like, hey, buy my course or subscribe to my mentorship or something like that, right? You don't need any of that stuff to actually get into copywriting. And you don't need any of it to actually learn copywriting, because copywriting is a $1 million skill that is learned from actual doing. And honestly, one of the best ways that I learned copywriting was actually just by doing it. Right? I would find stuff on billboards. I would look at people's ads. I would look at websites. And honestly, I was obsessed with just like seeing copywriting all over the place, because once you understand copywriting, you'll realize that literally it's all over the place, right? And that's the cool part about this, is you could study all these different things and put it into your brain and start developing these frameworks and stuff. And you can see why people said specific things, why they're asking questions in their copy, how they're handling objections. Maybe they're doing the close a different way. And one of the coolest ways to learn copy is to actually look at old newspapers, right? For example, there was this one newspaper back in the day, and it was like the lazy man's way of getting rich. And it was literally like from the 1980s, and it was a newspaper where this guy was asking people to mail in $10 ballots, right? And if they would mail in this $10 ballot, this dude would send out these newspapers to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And back in the day, one newspaper had the chance to make over $300,000. And back in the 1980s, that was probably equivalent to $3 million, right? That's where you need to be studying copy. The real way to study copy is to see what other people do, not what people are teaching and what they're preaching, right? That's why in this video, I'm going to actually show you like what I've learned from this. And this is not going to be any bullshit, right? Because I hate when people make videos like that where it's super confusing. Okay. And that leads me into my next point. Okay. Tip number 2 is learn to steal like an artist, right? So I honestly sucked at copywriting for a very, very long time. I didn't understand it. Like, I kind of understood how to sell one-to-one because it made sense to me. If you're in a conversation with someone, whether it's I honestly did a lot of Discord DMs back in the day because that's just how I started, right? It made a lot of sense. And I was selling $75 memberships at the time. And basically what I would do is I would say, hey, I heard you're interested in joining this group. And they're like, yeah, I'd be super interested. It's like, hey, what motivated you to get in the group? Why do you want to do this? What about this? What about this? And I'm just asking them a series of questions that makes them actually want to buy, because instead of me convincing them, I'm simply asking them questions that they answer to me. And then I'm like, hey, I heard that you're struggling with X, Y, and Z, and this thing that I'm selling you solves this, this, and this, and it's going to get you to dream outcome, right? Here's the thing. Okay. But when you're writing copy, it's a lot different, right? You're selling to thousands and thousands of people. And this was something that I had a very hard time getting my head around, because I literally couldn't just imagine selling to millions of people. Like, try to have a conversation with millions of people at once. It's mind-boggling. What I learned though is to steal like an artist, right? What you want to do is you want to create a swipe file of other people's work and slightly tweak it for your own offer and your own messaging, right? So you'll have your own messaging, etc., but you'll be able to like kind of copy it and twist it. That way you can use other people's frameworks with your own stuff, right? Like, for example, the first framework that I learned was attention, interest, desire, action. That's one of the most basic frameworks of all time, right? But if you take that framework that a lot of other people have used, you can take your different piece of attention, your different piece of subject material that adds interest, right? Desire and action, and you can make it your own, right? So what I did back in the day is I read a lot of books, I studied a lot of other people's copy, and I created something called a swipe file to look from to create my own copy. And that's what allowed me to actually start getting my first stepping stones in the copywriting space, right? So don't get confused or don't feel lost or overwhelmed when you're in the copywriting space, because I know how it can feel. You can feel like, oh, I have no experience. Why should a client work with me? But in reality, you actually have the tools to write very, very good copy, but you kind of just have to tap into that yourself. And the way to do that is to essentially just steal like an artist, because you're not copying anyone. You're not copying their work. You're not stealing it, right? You're not plagiarizing. You're stealing the frameworks, the way that they do the things, and that is stealing like an artist. What artists do is they literally get inspiration by looking at art, right? They sit on a rock all day. They think to themselves and they think, how can I do this, right? And that's the beauty of copywriting, is because honestly, I'm at a point in my copywriting career now where I work 2 to 3 hours a day, but all of the rest of my time is actually just spent thinking of really high quality ideas. Because if I can come up with an extremely high quality idea that's like, what if I did that piece of copy like this, right? That one change could make me so much money. Like actually so much money. It could be the difference from selling 10 products to 100 products or 1,000 or even 10,000 products in one little piece of copy. So once you learn how to steal like an artist and how to like play and take the puzzle pieces and put them together, you'll learn how to be a really good copywriter. Okay, so that's tip number 2. So tip number 3 here is saturation does not exist. 99% of people suck. Do more, do better, and stop fucking crying. Like, I promise you, like when you're first starting off, it's really easy to see that, yes, there are a lot of freelancers doing copywriting, and yes, there are a lot of people doing it, and they're all like kind of trying to steal each other's clients. But I promise you that the bottom 99% of client or copywriters compete over the same clients, right? And that percentage of clients is very small. But then there's this other like 90% of clients that nobody's tapping into, but the reason why they can't tap into them is because they're not actually a good copywriter yet. They can't see the holes. They can't see the gaps, right? That's one of the biggest problems that I've seen is people all try to go after the same clients because that's the first thing they think of, right? The people that actually succeed are the people that keep on going further, right? They do more. They do it a little bit better. They tweak their messaging. They're a lot different than the other copywriters, right? Because all of the rest of them are stuck in this cesspool of other copywriters fighting over the same pie, right? I would have never gotten to where I'm at if I was not different, right? If I did not be myself. One of my first clients that I worked with, it was a lot of fun, right? Because I do more of the partner model with copywriting, which I'll get into later. I actually got to go meet up with him in person, and we made a lot of money together. He paid me well over $100,000 with our partnership together, and I met up with him in LA. We drove around in his Tesla. It was a lot of fun, and I still have his phone number to this day, and he's honestly one of my best friends. I spent a lot of time on the phone with him because that partnership was just different, right? Everyone else is trying to have like clients, and they're honestly just thinking too much of themselves. When they pursue a client, they're thinking, what can I get out of this person? What kind of transaction can I create? How much money can I make with this person? Instead of, is this person a genuinely like cool person that I would like to work with? Would this be a dream client that I could meet up with and go to a party with? Like, that's the way that I was thinking when I was first started, right? Because you're going to be with this client for a long time, right? You might as well find someone that you'd actually click with and you'd have a lot of fun with. That's something nobody else is doing, right? And that's a principle that you can get around. And that's why saturation doesn't exist, is because there's so many people, right, doing all this stuff, but they're all going after the bottom 1% of the clients. Like they're terrible, right? Or bottom 99%, right? When you can ascend and find cool people and be yourself, right? Have a cool looking Instagram, and you can ascend and find the better clients, right? While everyone else picks over the scraps, right? So that's tip number 3. Okay. So tip number 4 is that everything's a bell curve. So I'm actually going to look up something here, and it's a real thing. I love this meme, and one of my greatest mentors taught me this, and he's so rich. He's worth like over $100 million. It's this little thing right here. Okay. I'm actually going to use this. So look at this right here. So most people, when they're starting off in the space, like they kind of end up over here. They're on the left side of the bell curve, and they're like, yeah, I just want to work with awesome clients, right? That's typically the mindset people have coming in, and that's what I just talked about. But what happens to a lot of people, it's a very easy trap to fall into, is they start overcomplicating everything because they start learning a little bit more. If you've been on copywriting YouTube for, I don't know, maybe 3-6 months, you're probably getting close to the middle of the bell curve. And the middle of the bell curve is painful, right? Because there's all these different things. Like, for example, this is just a notes app thing. Like, use Apple Notes. Like, the low IQ person's like, oh, I just use Apple Notes and I type it on my phone. And this person's like, I got Notion, I got Readwise, I got Quizlet, I got Google Drive, I got this thing and goes to here. It's too complicated, right? It's just annoying. It's too in the weeds. Like, you're just going all, like, you can't see outside of your own zone, right? And if you could see this guy in the middle, like, it's just a meme at the end of the day, but these people feel pain. Like, they genuinely like feel terrible. When on the right side of this bell curve, the highest IQ people do the same thing as the lowest IQ people, like just use Apple Notes, right? So the message here is to keep things simple, right? When you get into the game, you're going to want to overcomplicate everything. You're going to want to adapt to everything that other people are doing, right? And there's this one really big launch from this huge influencer recently, and I watched the whole thing because I like to study people's launches. I'm still a student to the game, and I still like an artist, so I love to watch things like this. And he's very successful, and I believe he made over $2 million in a day doing this. And he recently taught people how to launch an education product, and I've done that many times myself. And to be completely honest, what he did with that launch is he overcomplicated it for people. And I thought it was extremely overcomplicated. And I've sold millions of dollars of info, right? And he's teaching people how to do it, but it's extremely overcomplicated. But the reason why he probably overcomplicated it is because there's a lot of people in the middle of the bell curve that are trying to put the pieces together when he knows like there's a lot of people like that. And most of his audience is probably like that. So he needs to sell them the most complicated path possible. And they will think that like that's what they need to buy, right? It goes back to the same thing I was talking about earlier where people are making complicated YouTube videos to get you to buy their stuff. Because if they can get you to believe that it's more complicated than it seems, you'll buy it. Right? That's a trap. You got to be very careful of that. Okay. Number 5. Okay. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Most people are working glorified jobs anyways. Okay. I'm going to be very honest here. Okay. If you look in the copywriting space, it's not far off of a job. Most people in the copywriting space, they get into it because they kind of want a side hustle. They kind of want another job. And that's completely okay. I highly recommend keeping your job and also getting into business at the same time. That's what I did when I was starting off. However, you should be very careful copying/listening to what other people are saying or doing in the copywriting space, because what happens is these people come in and they think they're going to like make $3,000 a month writing 1, maybe 2 emails per week. And that sounds awesome, but it's realistically just a pipe dream. And the reason why is because in the day and age we live in now, we're getting closer and closer to those people's getting phased out completely, right? No longer is some business owner going to pay $3,000 for some freelancer to come in and write 1 or 2 emails when they could simply put it into an AI, use their voice, and it's done, right? What you want to do is you want to put yourself in the position, right, to do more things than just emails, because those people are easily replaced, right? They easily lose their clients. And yes, you're going to lose your clients. That's a given. But you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're as weak as wet tissue paper, right? You want to be strong. You want to be like multiple stacks of paper towels. Like you want to have multiple hooks in the client. A good way I can explain this is if you only have a $3,000 a month retainer in somebody for a very basic service, that's like having one hook in a fish's mouth, right? And if it's a whale, one hook is not going to do the trick. They're going to go off that hook very easily. But if you have multiple hooks in a whale, right, they're going to pay you a lot of money and they can't leave. Because what I did when I was first starting out is I started with that basic model as well. And then I transitioned into helping with a bunch of different other things. So instead of getting paid $100, $200, $300 for a service, I was getting paid way more money. Like I'm talking like $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $10,000 a month from one client, right? And the reason why was because I was doing so many different other things for the client that they couldn't get rid of me. And in fact, it's always been my choice when I've gotten rid of a client, right? I've never really had a client leave me. And the clients that did leave me, they had one hook in their mouth. Like for example, I was doing copywriting for ads for e-commerce clients at one point, and I was charging them $2,500 a month, and they left me because it wasn't a super strong service. But every single client I've had where I've had multiple hooks in their mouths, right? They don't leave. They can't leave. So be very careful listening to other people on copywriting YouTube and other people doing copywriting, because most of them simply just have glorified jobs. All right. And if you're watching this video so far, good shit, because we're about to get into 4 years of this. It's going to be insane. All right. So let me get into this. This is one of my favorite principles of all time is bullshitters are the best beginners. Okay. So what I mean by this, okay, and I don't mean just beginners, I think bullshitters in general. My grandfather, right? He was one of the best bullshitters of all time. He could kind of bullshit. And then he told me when I was younger that if you could bullshit in sales, then you can get your way by. Like you can get by most things if you're just good at bullshitting. And by bullshitting, I mean talking. I mean being confident. I mean just saying and being able to shoot the shit with somebody, right? If you're a beginner and you're just starting out and you get on a sales call with somebody and you're not confident in yourself because you've never really done the service before, how do you expect to get your first client, right? I have a buddy who started a landscaping business 3 years ago, and he had no idea how to do landscaping at all. But what he told me was his first landscape job is he's going around the landscape job. He's about to sell it to the home service or the homeowner. And the homeowner's like, so how many jobs have you done? And I'm not saying to do this, but he says, I've done a couple, right? And then he pulls up and she's like, can you show me? It's like, yeah, I can show you. And then he goes off to the car and he pulls up like Google and he crops out an image of like a nicely landscaped house. And that's not what I'm saying to do. But at the end of the day, he got the job, right? And that first job led into his second job and his third job and his fourth. What I'm saying is you just need to get your first client. You need to get past this BS thing in your head that you're not good enough to do it, right? Because you 100% are good enough to do it, 1,000%, right? I've had times where I wasn't completely confident that I could get a client results. But either way, I'm confident in my ability to help them, right? Because as soon as I sign that client, I'm going to go do the work and I'm going to give it my all, right? And I've actually signed a client before, right, that knew I had no experience. Like I swear, like this was the same client that churned, right? He left, right? But he stayed on for 3 months and he paid me $7,500. So if you want to make $7,500, listen to this, right? I got on the call with this client and he asked us for previous experience. And I was like, honestly, I haven't done most of this before. And I was like, and I've done a little bit, but I haven't done most of it. And I was completely honest with them, but I was like, I have drive, I have motivation, I'm ready to go, right? And he was all in because he liked the fact that I was a young dude that had ambition and I knew I was going to get it right? And I was going to dedicate all of my time to his business. People will honestly pay for you to dedicate all of your time and attention into their business. I've helped multiple people go from complete beginners, not knowing anything, to killers, right? Because they just committed all of their time to their craft, right? So don't be afraid to sell something that you're not super confident in doing, but you're going to do it yourself, right? Like you're putting your hands in their business and you're going to figure it out, right? It's not that hard to figure out, I promise, right? So that's tip number 6. Let's go into tip number 7. Okay. Now this goes into my last point. This is actually a good leeway, right? It only takes 20 hours to get 80% good at any skill, right? You can actually Google this. Like there's a whole TEDx talk about this and I found it so fascinating and everything clicked once I watched this TEDx, right? And honestly, I'm pretty obsessed with this factor because I use it all the time. It's a lot of fun. Okay. So what this means is it only takes 20 focused hours, right, of doing the work, okay, to get 80% good at any skill. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. I started riding a dirt bike recently, right? And I wasn't that good in the beginning. I was pretty trash, right? I couldn't hold off the clutch if you're used to dirt bikes or anything like that. I couldn't get off the clutch without letting it stall. And I busted my ass on the third day. Like it was pretty bad, but I had a lot of fun on the dirt bike. In fact, I bought one on my second day riding, right? And like you could tell, like my first day riding my new bike, I ate shit. So like, I don't recommend doing that. Don't go too hard, but I learned, right? And with dirt bikes, the biggest thing is seat time. You just have to sit on the bike and ride the bike and you get better. And once you get around 20 hours of seat time, I think for dirt bikes, it's a little bit different. It's probably not 80%, right? But you're going to get damn near 80% good at the skill once you've put 20 focused hours into it. And by focused hours, I mean like you are physically sitting down and actually doing it. So for example, copywriting, if you're sitting down for 20 focused hours copywriting and you are physically writing emails or writing sales pages for 20 focused hours, you're going to get around 80% as good at that skill. And once you get to that 80% mark, you're going to be extremely confident selling any service, right? For example, one of the best ways to do outreach, right, is to actually do the work up front for the client and provide free value, even if they don't respond to you, because if you provide that value up front, You're going to get really good at copywriting by just writing for people that you haven't even signed yet. But these are like highly competent people. And then you could show your results to future clients, right? And this is very, very awesome because that's what humans are capable of doing, right? 20 focused hours, right? But here's the interesting thing. It takes 10,000 hours to go from 80% good at a skill to 100% good. Okay. So there's that gap right there. So it kind of goes up and then it plateaus. It kind of looks like this. I'll literally show you. So if we were to put it on like a graph, it kind of would go like this. There's a graph right here and then I'll use like blue, right? So it takes 20 hours to get 80% good and then 10,000 hours to kind of balance out. And that's what's super interesting about this is what most people's progression looks like. They start off copywriting. They're not really that good for the first like few days because they're not copywriting that much. And then they start doing it and then they become like 80% good. They're pretty solid, right? And then mastery is a lot longer. Like to go from here to here, it takes like a whole lot longer, right? 10,000 hours because the tail just keeps on going longer and longer and longer. Okay, so that's tip number 7. Don't be afraid to over-deliver or even deliver a service because everyone has the same thing. It only takes 20 hours, okay? Now, tip number 8. 99% of copywriters fail because of the entrepreneur transition curve. This is another thing that I've learned that I will pass on to you that is actually insane. So here's the entrepreneur transition curve right here. There's a little bit of a, yeah, that's good. Okay, so you start off with uninformed optimism. Any single time you get into an opportunity, you're extremely excited, right? Like for example, if you're new to copywriting or if you were new to copywriting like 3 months ago, you were probably extremely excited like, "Oh my god, I can write a few emails at a 5th grade level and make $3,000 a month. That's insane. I've never heard of something like that before." But then something interesting happens. The next thing that happens here is it goes from uninformed optimism to informed pessimism. Now, what is that? Informed pessimism is basically where you are now informed that there's some work to do. It's not just as easy as writing emails and getting paid $3,000 a month, right? That's the interesting part about this. And this is the test. It's almost like a test from God in any opportunity that you step into, right? So informed pessimism is people are like, "Oh, this isn't as good as I thought." Right? I have to do outreach or I have to do this. I have to do that. Even though this opportunity is insane and this is like copywriting is the thing that made me millions of dollars, every single person will go through the phase of, hey, this actually isn't all as great, but there's still like, yeah, it's not that great, right? But that's just the first little tiny step of that. So you stay in this for a long time and then you fall into the crisis of meaning. The crisis of meaning is like, oh, it's been like 2 months and I haven't gotten any results. And most of the time, these people haven't even sent like one outreach message. And they're just like, "Oh, I haven't made any money copywriting," and they're sitting on their hands, right? Or they've sent a few messages and they're BS, right? They didn't actually do any work. They didn't actually try that hard. They just want it given to them, right? They want it on a silver platter. That's extremely insane if you think about it, right? But you go from the crisis, now this is the tipping point, right? There's the crisis of meaning and you either go one of two directions. You either crash and burn because you hate this and this sucks and this, that, and the third, and you start crying, you stop working as hard, right? And you go try a different business model. You try drop shipping, you try Amazon FBA, you go start a clothing brand, right? This is actually what one of my friends went through when I told him copywriting would be an awesome thing. I forgot that he was new to online business, and people who are new to business, they typically like to try 10 different models before they realize all of these are the same. All of these are great opportunities, but they all have some shit. Right? They all have some shit that stinks. That's the real. Nothing in life, right? It's not always greener on the other side. Nothing in life is all sunshines and rainbows. Okay? And the people that realize that are the people that don't crash and burn. They have something that's called informed optimism, right? They're now informed that, okay, this has some shit and it's not the most fun and it stinks, but I can probably get out of this if I work hard. And those are the people that if they keep on chugging away and they put their back against the wall and they go all in, right? As long as they're still in a comfortable position where they're still safe in their life, they make it. They absolutely will make it because all it takes after that is some time, right? And once I understood this lesson, this is what helped me get out of the valley of despair. I've helped multiple people get out of that trap, and I will be the one to tell you that it's an extremely terrible trap. So let's get into the next lesson. Don't get distracted by shiny business models. Okay. This also goes hand in hand with my first year of copywriting. I'll even zoom out here. So that's my first year. That's like, these are extremely important for your first year for sure. So don't get distracted by shiny business models. I can't tell you how many people, right? They go from, oh, I'm going to get into this. This is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm so excited. And then they have that whole, like that fall down. And then they're like, fuck. And then they kind of fall down the slope. And then they eventually just start something different. And the reason why they start something different is because, right, they look at YouTube and they see this guy has made X amount of money with this thing, right? And they're like, whoa, I want to do that, right? You might have experienced that coming into my YouTube channel or someone else's. You're on YouTube right now. You've probably seen that every single day. But the key is to pick a model that's going to last forever, not the shiny ones, right? Like you've probably seen very shiny business models that they kind of just spawned out of thin air. You didn't even know what they were. And they're like, what is this guy even doing? Like TikTok Shop, right? TikTok Shop was a huge business model a few months ago. And what ended up happening like 2 days ago is TikTok got banned, right? And I know it's back up now thanks to Trump, but TikTok literally got banned. The people that started that business model were probably sweating in their boots. That's why I like to focus on business models that are skills, right? Like copywriting. Copywriting is one of the only business models where it's not a business model. It's a skill. It's a skill that can make you your first $10,000. It's a skill that can make you your first $100,000. And it's a skill that will make you $1 million, 10 million, 100 million. I don't care what it is because everyone needs copywriting. You're not just going to only do freelance copywriting for the rest of your life, but one day you're going to use copywriting for yourself. And you're going to make millions of dollars. You're going to own a piece of a business just like I did, and you're going to make millions of dollars from the skill set of copywriting. That is the beauty of copywriting, and that's why I'm all in on it, right? I love to teach first principles, like the real skills that can get you into the game, right? And the game has a plethora of different skills, but if you can focus on one skill, if I were to focus on one skill, it would be copywriting. And the reason why is because copywriting is extremely versatile. You could use it in any single type of business, and most of these business models that are shiny actually behind the scenes just use copywriting. For example, an ad agency or freelance brand scaling or something like that is all just copywriting at the end of the day. It's very interesting. So don't get distracted by shiny business models and don't let YouTube overwhelm you, for God's sake. Okay? So next year, so second year, this is like my second year of thoughts, right? We're almost done. Not really. Thanks for sticking along. You're doing good. Okay. So tip number 10, brainwash yourself until you're a good copywriter. Okay. This is extremely important. Okay. Nobody's a really good copywriter when they're first starting off. Okay. Nobody's good at anything when they're first starting off. But one of the best things you could do is to go brainwash yourself with everything in that industry, right? And with copywriting, one of the best things to do is, I don't know about buying courses when you're first starting out, right? But one of the best things to do is to literally just go binge watch YouTube videos to familiarize yourself with it. I have a buddy, right, that's about to start an AI agency because he understands the copywriting principles. So he's about to tweak his offer a little bit and go sell AI to local businesses. It's pretty smart, right? I like it, okay? But what he's about to do, right, is he's about to come into the industry and start brainwashing himself with a bunch of different business like videos so he can actually familiarize himself with the space. And once you are familiar, you can start connecting the paths. When you first start off in anything, everything is disconnected. There's a bunch of different points all over the place. But once you get more and deeper into it, it starts connecting. You can start connecting the dots. And this is what happened for me when I started in year 2. Year 2, I had all these different things because I had been brainwashing myself with books, YouTube videos, podcasts. Podcasts were one of my favorite things to brainwash myself with. I would, with copywriting, this is a non-traditional way to learn copywriting, but it actually helped a lot, is I listened to sales calls nonstop. I just constantly listened to sales calls, right? It's really weird. No one does that, right? But I learned a lot about human psychology and human behavior from sales calls. What is getting this person to buy, right? What is getting this person to actually give us this? Why are they complying, right? And you can extrapolate that into copywriting, right? So I brainwashed myself with all of those videos and I understood human behavior. And that's what allowed me to get into the copywriting space so easily, was because I understood all these different things. It was disconnected at first. It was all over the place. But then I realized that, because of the authority principle, this person's listening to this person. And because of the scarcity principle, this person wants to sell their house right now to us for a profit, right? That's how I kind of learned it. I started learning all these different things, which I'll probably get into in year 4 here. I have it over later. Is I'm going to give you a lot of tips and stuff like that are more advanced, that they're probably not going to make sense to you right now if you're starting off. But later down the road, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember when Brady talked about this in his video. And then he also talked about this. And I saw this other thing over here. And I could probably fill a gap in the market over here and make a lot of money. That is a blessing. Being able to brainwash yourself and see all these different things is a blessing, right? You need to take that, okay? So brainwash yourself until you're a good copywriter. That's tip number 10. So number 11 is don't be a bot, okay? I had to learn this recently for content, right? If I was sitting up here and I was talking like this and I was just a robot the entire time, you wouldn't want to listen to me. You'd be like, this guy's weird, right? And it's actually a principle in psychology I'll get to later. It's called likeness, right? People listen to people they like. Right? If I was annoying and I was like yelling at you the entire time, right? Like you probably wouldn't listen. That's why some people hate Donald Trump and some people fucking love him. They just love him because it's Donald Trump. He's talking like this and people like to listen to that, right? And people who have beliefs that believe in what he's saying definitely like to listen to that. And then there's people that hate him. They absolutely cannot listen to a single thing he says, right? And that's because Donald Trump's not up there like a fucking pole, just sitting there, I'm not to get into politics or anything, but a lot of people hated Biden because he couldn't speak properly. Like they didn't enjoy like how he spoke. They didn't enjoy him, right? They thought he was kind of a robot. He was being controlled like a puppet. And the audience could feel that. America could feel that. That's a real life example right there, right? So if you get on a sales call with a client, a potential client that you're going to do copywriting for, and you're getting on that call and you're like, hold on, let me read this script so I can memorize the script and say the right things to the person, right? Like I have a massive course that's free on YouTube and I give you guys a sales script. But like the mistake most people make is instead of looking at the principle that I explained in that video, a lot of people just kind of bar for bar the script. They're like, hi, my name is John and I would like to write copy for you. Like, no, that's not what you do. You get on there and say like, what's up, bro? Nice to meet you. Where do you live? Oh, you live in Michigan? I love Michigan. I like to go sledding sometimes there. Oh, really? Like you start getting into a real conversation, right? Some of the best people that I know in sales, right, have this ability, it's like a chameleon-like ability. It's weird. A chameleon-like ability to match someone in a conversation, right? Like one of my friends, right? Will go to a sales appointment, and if they're more country, more southern, they'll be like, because I live in Tennessee, they'll be like, hey man, how you doing? And he'll be able to match them like, what's up, dude? I'm here to get your plants right and stuff like that. And he'll like match the tone, right? And that person will like them more. And if you can get to talking about sports a little bit more, then that person's going to like you, right? Because one thing that we like to ignore in psychology is there's 2 different principles. There's authority and likeness, right? Authority is like listening to like Elon Musk, right? But believe it or not, a lot of people are more tuned to listening to a friend about advice that they should take in their life than someone like Elon Musk, which is bizarre, right? Because it's Elon Musk, but people want to listen to people they like. If they don't like Elon Musk, they're probably not going to listen to him. Okay, so that's tip number 11. So don't be a bot, don't be a robot, right? Be a real person, okay? Tip number 12, getting new clients is easy if your outreach is completely different. And this kind of goes along with being a bot, right? But sometimes this is a huge, actually a copywriting principle that will help you a ton, is that sometimes the prospects aren't necessarily saying no to your message. They're saying no to the way that you approach them, right? I'll say that again. These clients, when you reach out to them, aren't saying no to you. They're saying no to the way you approach them, right? So there's a very common thing that a lot of people do in the copywriting space right now. And it's like, hey, bro, you doing anything with email? And the reason why is it's because there's a popular person in the space and he ranks first on YouTube in the copywriting space. And he tells everyone to do this blanket, one word thing. Here's the thing, okay? That probably worked 4 years ago, right? He probably spammed 1,000 messages, got a bunch of clients, made a bunch of money, right? But if he made a video that got 250,000 views, 500,000 views, right? And everyone's doing the same thing. Don't you think that the clients are tired of hearing that, right? It's annoying. Like, I don't want people to spam me. I look at my Instagram messages, and I sometimes will look at that, and I'll be like, hey, this guy's cool. Let me get on a call with this guy, right? Because people pitch me all the time, right? I'll be like, let's get on a call, right? But that's if they get my attention. But if you come into my DMs and you're like, hey, you doing anything with the email? I'm going to immediately close it because you're the same as everyone else. You're the same. I know how this pitch goes. I've heard it before, right? So sometimes the easiest way to get clients is to be completely different. For all I care, take all of your clothes off and record a video of you asking to work with them. No one probably does it, right? I coached this one client that actually, he was trying to get copywriting clients and he was like, yo, bro, like, how can I differentiate myself? And he was this big dude, right? And he was from like the blue collar space. And you big hairy dude, like big muscles, and he had a deep voice. Like, oh, what should I do to get clients? Like, I'm tired of working my piping job, and I hate this thing, right? So what I told him to do, I was like, dog, you know what you need to do? You need to take your shirt off, and you need to like act like you got your big traps out. And you gotta be like, what's up, dude? Like, I can't do it. I'm too small. But it's like, what's up, dude? I would love to write your copy for you or something like that. Right? That's not what he said. I'm just going to cover it like that because I don't want to leak the sauce, right? But that worked. People responded because he's like, who is this? Right? He started with his camera in full, like the full camera. It wasn't like a loom, right? And they're like, who is this? This is like really weird, right? And that's what got them to pay attention. And that's what got them to like take the message. But if he came in there and said, you're doing anything with email, no one's going to respond. That's the matter of the fact, right? No one's going to respond to that, right? So if you're watching this video and you've been doing like a ton of outreach and you've been banging your head against the wall, it's time to change it up, right? And a good way to do this is first track, like, are you getting opens, right? Like, get mail track on your Gmails, and am I getting opens, right? That's the first thing, right? And step 0 is, am I messaging the right people? Right? That's another thing. I have a whole course on like making sure you're messaging the right people and the softwares that you could use, like AI softwares, to get their email address that are like completely like super low key, right? And then the next thing is mail track. Are my messages getting opened, right? And then am I getting responses? Are those responses positive? How can I get them on a call? It's simple, right? It's very simple, but you have to be different. Okay? Extremely important. So that's tip number 12. We're blazing through this today. Dope. So number 13. I got paid $131,000 to learn copywriting in 11 months. This is one of the things that, like, some of you know that I'm 21 years old. And a lot of people look at that and they're like, how the hell did this guy at 21 years old make $2.3 million? Okay. I get that question a lot, right? It's very like crazy. And honestly, I've been trying to like lower my claims because most people don't believe me. And if you don't believe me, like I've refreshed it in multiple videos. Like, I've done it multiple times, right? But here's the thing. Most people don't believe me. But the reason why I'm so far ahead of everyone else in the copywriting space is because, right, I spent a year, right, getting paid to learn. I wasn't like trying to get a bunch of different clients and make money. I wasn't maximizing the amount of money I made. Right? I could have made way more money at the time. But what I spent all my time doing was I found a client that was essentially like a mentor to me. I'm not saying get a mentor, right? I'm not going to sit here. I hate when people make these videos and they're like, tip number 13, get a mentor. And then the mentorship's below the video and it's $5,000. That makes me want to shoot never mind. So $131,000. I partnered with this guy and he taught me everything I knew. I hopped on multiple calls with him, 3-4 hours at a time. And he taught me everything, every single thing I needed to know about copywriting, right? And that's why I know so much, is because I literally speed ran everything. Right? While you're sitting here and you're trying to buy these little rinky-dink courses and you're doing X, Y, and Z, I was learning 4 hours a day, right? Paid mentorship, right? Every single day. Even if you buy a mentorship, like, there's not a chance you're getting on a call with the coach 6 hours a day, right? For me, it was, because if this guy taught me more stuff, he was going to make more money. That's how it works, right? So what I'm saying here is, in the beginning, you should treat your business almost like a job if you can. Right? It's like getting paid to learn. See it as a season. It's not like it's a temporary thing where you're going to learn a lot in a little bit of time and you're going to know how to make $1 million by the time you're done with it. Right? Obviously, pick a millionaire if you're going to do that. Like, find a good client that is a millionaire that can teach you a lot of stuff. That goes for anything. If you want to learn real estate, it's probably a good idea to go work in a real estate industry. Right? You can learn a lot about real estate doing that. Okay? So the next thing, tip number 14. Renting out your time will not make you rich. Own a percentage of a business. Okay, I've said this multiple times already, and it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, you can't stay in the employee phase forever. You can't stay in the glorified employee phase forever. You can't just get paid $3K a month to write some emails, right? You're not going to ever make more money because you're renting out your time. Anything that has anything to do with your time, right, is not good. And I have a really good example of this is that guy who taught me everything. I learned everything from him. And then I actually taught everything to someone else, like literally last year. And while I was teaching him everything, I was not doing that much stuff. I was like maybe checking some emails. I was making sure the business ran properly, but I was just feeding him ideas. I had a bunch of leverage because none of my time was being used. All of it was just my ideas. And this guy was doing a bunch of work. And now that same guy, I taught him everything, is teaching someone else the same stuff. And that descendant is getting paid to learn now. It's like a cycle. It's a cool cycle, right? But here's the thing. You can't rent out your time forever, whether you're running an agency, whether you're doing copywriting, whether you're doing marketing. I don't care what you're doing. You can't take sales calls all day, right? Even though it makes you money, it's only going to make you X amount of money, right? You can't, okay? Because whatever, especially when you sell something and it takes more units of your time, there's a hypothetical limit or a cap to that business. It's good in the beginning. You'll make $3,000, $5,000, $6,000, $9,000 a month. But after that, it's not a good viable option. I don't recommend it. Okay. So that's number 14. Don't rent out your time. It's very obvious. Okay. The next one is own a percentage of a business in the content economy. So most people don't know this yet, but social media has spawned like 1 billion new opportunities, like actually 1 billion, right? And I personally believe, right, there's 7 billion people on this earth. And one day I hope that there's actually going to be 7 billion businesses. Because I personally believe that everyone can have their own business, like every single person, because we live in an economy where it's not really corporate anymore. Like more than ever, like companies will either there's two options they have. They will either pay an outside contractor, right? Or they will hire internally. Whichever one's cheaper, they're going to go with. Recently, the outside contractor has been a lot cheaper. Hiring a copywriter from the outside is actually a lot cheaper than hiring someone for $5,000 a month. Because if you hired a copywriter in-house, it would probably be like $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month retainer, right? But if you hire somebody outside of that, they can charge $3K a month because they have multiple clients and it's cheaper, right? So they're going to obviously hire from the outside, right? Now, these smaller businesses with creators, right? There's actually like millions of creators. There's 200 million creators, okay? And there's probably only 100,000 copywriters. I actually did the math on that. And if you do the math, there's enough room for every single copywriter to have 1,500 clients. So what I think you should do is I think you should write copy for creators. You could write, starting off just to begin with, you could write their social media scripts and help them come up with ideas for content. Very simple. That's a huge plus for them. People are looking for that all the time. I promise you. And that's just something you can get paid for initially. And then past that, you can also write sales letters for them. You could do launches for them and do all this other stuff. And that's what I did to make $2.3 million. I took 50% of a digital product with a content creator that wasn't initially monetizing their audience. Because there's 200 million creators, but most of them are broke, right? They have no money. They don't make any money from their content. They're kind of just hoping to get paid from AdSense. When you can help them launch a digital product like a $50 a month community, a $100 month community, a coaching program or something like that, and you can help them make so much more money, like way more. Okay? So that's another thing. You need to I highly suggest partnering with a creator, right? And monetizing their audience because for one, it's extremely easy to go pitch a creator, hey, I know you're not making any money right now. I'm down to help you make money because I know how to do X, Y, and Z, and I see a gap in your business or in your like content where I think you can make way more money. Like realistically, 1% of your audience is probably going to make this much money, right? Because if you have 100,000 subscribers, 1% says yes, that's 1,000 people. At $100 a month, that's $100,000 a month, right? Very easy. But they don't know how to write copy. They're afraid to sell to their audience. They don't want to be a guru. You could help them do that in secret by helping them create an email list. And then on the back end, you can help them write copy to make them actually like pay more money, right? There's very creative ways to make money, okay? And you need to be very open to that. Don't just write emails for brands for $3K a month. Don't limit yourself to that because that's not how you get rich. The new rich are in the content economy. I'm telling you. Okay. Number 15. All right. Number 16. It only takes one creator to completely change your life. Okay? This goes without being explained, right? If you have a percentage of a creator and that creator has 1 million followers and you have a really good relationship with them and a good percentage, you can make a lot of money, right? I bought my dream house that I'm in right now. I'm not in my parents' house. I'm not in a rental, right? I bought my dream house at 21 from one creator. It's insane, right? I actually like pull up to my house sometimes and I'm like, holy shit, like a house in Tennessee that costs as much as I paid for it is really big. Like I have 3 open bedrooms that I don't even use. I don't even know why I bought it, to be honest. Like I'm like literally just had the money to do so. Okay. And that was just from one client. Okay. And there's enough clients for 1,500 clients to be with each copywriter, which is bizarre, right? So don't let the opportunity slip away from your fingertips, okay? I'm being like dead serious. I'm not trying to convince you here. I'm stating the facts. The facts are there's a ton of creators, and I've honestly even helped. You can go watch my course and see how many people I've helped partner with creators and then help them make money, and they've changed their lives completely, right? Go from complete beginners to making $300,000 a year. Money, doctor money in a year. It's crazy. All right. Next, ignore those who ignore AI. I like this one because there's a lot of people in the copywriting space who are like, oh, AI is not going to replace us. You are being fooled, right? If you think that AI is not going to replace you, you're a fool, right? And I don't mean you, right? Because you're probably open-minded if you're watching this video so far, right? But most people who say, hey, AI is not going to replace you have their own agenda, because if you believe in AI and you understand how to use AI, the things that they're selling at the time, like you just don't need them if you have AI and you know how to actually use it, because they're trying to like help you create your copy and organize it and make it good and review your copy, when an AI can do that for you if you actually know what you're doing. And I found a software recently, it's all over my YouTube channel, where you can literally take a software and get it to write exactly in your voice. I've written so many pieces of copy with AI, it's insane. And it's really good. Like it's really good. Like if you know how to actually write copy and you mesh that with AI, you're going to be cracked. Now, here's what I will say. If you don't know how to use copy, you need to first learn how to write copy. And then if you know how to write copy and you know how the ideas work and how everything connects, then you can use AI, right? Because the AI is only going to be as good as you are. That's facts, right? Because like I can feed it a bunch of ideas, and if those ideas are shit, they're not going to actually work. Like they're just not. Okay. So you definitely need to know how to actually write copy before you start deciding to use AI. All right. That's extremely important. All right. Tip number 18, maturing is realizing most people can't think for themselves, right? Once you learn marketing, you start learning that most people are just being brainwashed. And if you learn propaganda, I didn't put it in this video. Propaganda is a whole nother, I could put together a propaganda masterclass, right? Because realistically with marketing, copywriting, etc., if you can get people to change their beliefs, change the way they think, they'll buy your products. Because if they have new beliefs and the belief is that they need your solution, they're going to buy from you, right? And one of the things that marketers are really good at doing is propaganda. There's actually a book on my shelf right over there about it, right? So there's this, I'll give you an example that's going to change, it's going to literally blow your mind, and you can look this up. This is real data, right? There's this little saying that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And you've probably believed this like your entire childhood, right? But the interesting thing about breakfast is the most important meal of the day is that it was never the most important meal of the day. Actually, there was a baking company, specifically a marketer that was working for a baking company, right? That was essentially trying to boost bacon sales, right? Because we need to sell more bacon. But if nobody's eating breakfast, nobody's really buying bacon like that. Right? So somebody had this brilliant idea of running TV commercials to completely brainwash people that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And I believe it was back in the 50s or something like that, 50s, 60s, 80s-ish. There's a saying that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You've probably heard your parents say it, your grandparents say it, right? And bacon sales skyrocketed because people were just believing that bacon is like not bacon, but breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And then boom, here comes bacon, right? Bacon's awesome. I love bacon for breakfast. You've probably had bacon for breakfast, right? But that's simply a belief that a marketer just trickled into the economy, right? I can't say what I did, but I actually did something where I got people to believe something across the entire market. We got millions of views and everyone was like, holy shit, right? I helped blow up a software company that way and they're worth over $100 million now, right? And it's simply because I changed a belief in the market, right? Everyone believed it. Everyone dove on it. That's propaganda. So maturing is realistically realizing that copywriters pretty much like control the world because like even with the government, even with politics, propaganda is everywhere, right? It's actually everywhere. And that's when you stop watching the news. That's when you stop like going through social media, right? I don't have social media. I don't go through the news because most of it is BS. It's completely BS because I know it is made by marketers to push an agenda to get people to buy stuff or to get people to comply with stuff, right? Don't get me into the whole like 2020 era of propaganda. That was a huge propaganda campaign, right? Humongous. Andrew Tate had a massive propaganda campaign. Okay. So let's get into the third year. Okay. We're in the third section now. All right. So the next part is we're getting into some real copywriting stuff now. This is like actually like some good shit. Okay. So it's tip number 19. Forget your English teachers. Write at a 5th grade level, right? Now, a lot of people hear this and they make the mistake of writing like a 5th grader, right? I never said write like a 5th grader. I said write at a 5th grade level. There's a huge difference from writing at or on. Like, so if you're writing as a 5th grader, you sound dumb. Like you actually you don't know anything. 5th graders don't know anything about the world, right? But if you write at a 5th grade reading level, right, people will understand you. The reason why I just talked about bacon sales is because a lot of people will understand that, right? One of the biggest things is getting someone to believe something is as simple as making an example that they can understand. That's a huge copywriting tip. Like I didn't even include in here. That's another one, right? But if you can get everyone to understand something, they will all believe it. They will all accept it. They will all comply, right? They will actually believe it because they can understand something, right? Very simple stuff sells. If you're going to sound stupid saying it sometimes, right? But if the entire population can understand it, right? Everyone's going to listen to it. Here's your example. Okay, your very simple example. Rappers, J. Cole, Chris Brown. Why did I say Chris Brown? Lil Wayne, right? Drake, all the biggest rappers, right? You might see that they make music that everyone can relate to. Why? The reason why is because, right, they're talking about low-level stuff because everyone can understand the low-level stuff. If I started rapping about spiral dynamics, nobody's going to fuck with that song. You don't even know what spiral dynamics are. And that's the chances. I don't know how much you've studied, but if you understand spiral dynamics in psychology, like props to you. That's a huge one, right? And the more you understand human psychology, by the way, like you'll be a killer copywriter, right? But if I made a rap song about like the triggers I'm about to show you in psychology that get people to buy copy, no one's going to care. Like it's similar to those songs you see in school that are like teaching you how to like listen to, or teaching you how to speak Spanish, like SOCKS, you know? So bring it down to a 5th grade level, right? So people can understand it. And you will have much more people respond to your copy. For example, one of the closes I like to use if you have a money back guarantee is it's like putting your money in a piggy bank and then you can get it right back out when you're done, right? Getting people to buy is extremely easy if you simply tell them what you're doing is you're putting this money into a piggy bank, right? And if you don't like this after 60 days, you're taking money right back out of the piggy bank, right? That's another easy one to get fast closes, but it's at a 5th grade level. It's a piggy bank, right? That's copy, okay? So that's tip number 19. Tip number 20, okay? This one's really important. Ideating, outlining, drafting, and editing is all writing. A lot of people make the mistake that if they're not physically like actually writing anything, they're not writing copy, which is a massive, stupid mistake, right? A lot of people make this mistake. And the reason why is because it doesn't feel like writing. When I get ideas, I'm writing, right? When I'm outlining and putting bullet points on my page to think about my writing, I'm writing, right? If I'm drafting something and it looks super sloppy, I'm writing, right? If I'm editing it, making it super clean, that's writing, right? So when you're writing copy, realistically, most of the time, I don't even do like the actual writing anymore. I get the ideas, right? I put together the outline. I think of it really nicely. And then I just let AI do the heavy lifting for me because it could write in my voice, right? It's going to write everything out perfectly. So why would I ever spend all of that time drafting? It just takes too much time. Drafting takes the most time. Like it actually like realistically does. I'd rather just get ideas, go for a walk and spit some stuff. I like to talk into my phone, right? That's a fun thing to do. Like talking to your phone, just yap and have AI simplify it into bullet points, put it into the AI, have the AI spit out a perfect piece of copy, and then you edit it to make it your own. That's leverage right there. If you learn how to do that, you're going to be a killer, right? But all of that's writing. Even if you're using AI, that's writing, right? I never said that AI was going to replace writing. AI is only going to enhance, right? Because another thing too with this whole AI thing is people are always going to take a long time to adapt to technological things, right? AI is super new. Humans aren't going to instantly say, oh, I love AI, right? You haven't done it yet, probably. I haven't, right? I don't actually like AI that much, but it helps me a lot in my work. Okay, so it's not going to completely replace you, but if you know how to use it, you will replace 99% of shitty copywriters, 100%. Okay, so that's tip number 20. Tip number 21, principles over tactics. If you've been watching this far, right, all of what I've said are pretty much principles. It's not, hey, when you're writing, go right here and add ... because it means you're continuing a thought. That's a tactic. That's more of like something specific, right? But principles are the things that I can give you, that you can come back to, right? And if I can get you to think like a copywriter, then you'll be a good copywriter, right? You can't teach a man, you can't just fish for someone. You have to teach a man to fish, right? If you give a man fish, I don't know how the saying goes specifically. If you give a man fish, right, he'll be happy for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he'll be happy for a year, 2 years, for a lifetime, right? I think that's how it goes. Let's try to be like philosophical there for a second. But yeah, if I can teach you how to fish, right, you're going to know how to use these copywriting principles and you're going to actually be able to apply them and make money with them. But if I just gave you a bunch of tactics for you to follow, that wouldn't help. If I gave you an outreach blueprint, a step-by-step template to follow, it would get used for maybe a week. It would maybe work for 2-3 people, and then it would saturate. It wouldn't work because everyone's doing it. It's the pattern interrupt thing again, right? That's just what it is. So focus on first principles, right? Things that actually exist, right? Like the thing that I'm talking about when I'm talking about working with creators, you might have heard the term before, growth operator. You might have heard the term growth partner or info product agency or something like that. The reason why I don't call it that and the reason why I call it copywriting is because copywriting is a first principle. It's the real skill behind all of that stuff, right? Very extremely important. You see a lot of people in the middle of the bell curve messing all that stuff up. They can't stick to first principle because it's too simple for them. It's not complicated enough. It's not cool enough. They know too much. They're too smart for all that stuff, right? You can see that a lot in the go high level side of YouTube. It's crazy, right? So principles over tactics, right? One of my best mentors told me that. Okay. Tip number 22, ideas are greater than what you say, and what you say is greater than how you say it. Okay. So what I mean by this is ideas trump everything. If you have a better idea than somebody, right, it's going to trump. Okay. What I mean by that is I could make this video, and if the title is not that good, people aren't going to click on it. It's not going to get a lot of views. And I'm sitting here yapping for no reason at this point, right? If my idea is not that good. Hopefully this idea is pretty good, right? But what I mean by that is like what I'm saying in this video, it could be extremely valuable. But simply because the idea in the initial beginning was not like good, like it wasn't a good idea of a video overall, nobody's going to click on it. It's going to be a waste of time, okay? And then the next thing is what you say versus how you say it. A lot of people in the direct response industry / copywriting industry, what they do is they try to spice up everything. They try to like say things a certain way, and they try to like be like, it's this much, but right now it's this much. Like they use this like disgusting marketer slang. I've learned the same stuff, so I get it. I've fallen into the same trap. I sound like that sometimes. I get it, right? But what I've realized is if you say really good points, right, and you have really good stuff to say, it will hit a lot harder than how you say it, right? That's why I can come up here relaxed rather than yelling at you. I can come up here relaxed and be like, what you say versus how you say it. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a solid point. I should remember that, right? So that's literally like what it is right there, okay? So that's tip number 22, okay? Tip number 23 is products versus marketers. And this one's an interesting one, especially with the AI bubble. If you're a copywriter and you can partner with a creator and help them sell an AI software, you're going to make millions, like millions and millions and millions of dollars. Okay. But if you're a marketer, okay, and you're helping a creator sell, let's say, an ebook or something not as great. People have seen it before. It's going to be hard, right? It's going to be very difficult, right? Like, would you rather buy a dating course or would you rather buy an AI software that could riz girls for you? Isn't that interesting, right? It's no longer marketers versus marketers where they're just competing against each other on how they say stuff, right? It's the how they say stuff thing or what they say. They're competing on the overall idea of what they're selling, right? If you're selling a better thing, people are going to buy it, right? And that's where there's product market fit as well. That's a huge thing in business is product market fit. Like, for example, I'll give you a little story. Around a year ago, I was making $30,000 a month with the creator. And we kept hitting the ceiling over and over and over again. I couldn't figure out why the fuck, like we couldn't get past that. I was like literally losing my mind. So what I ended up realizing was the offer wasn't that good. So I was like, maybe we could tweak it like this. And then when I tweaked it a tiny bit, right, and made the product a little bit different. We went from 30 to 50 to 180 to $270,000 a month to $430,000 a month. And it was simply by tweaking the offer. Nothing else changed. Simply tweaked the offer to fit, right? And that's where it's products versus marketers, because there's a ton of other people trying to copy me and what I was saying, but they weren't specifically selling what I was selling, right? And I made way more than they did. Simple as that. That's just how the game works, right? It's not all about marketing. Marketing is very important, right? But product actually trumps everything when it comes to like the actual product that you are selling. Very important. If you can find a good product, you'll make a ton of money. All right. So tip number 24. Okay. And this one's actually very like simple, but it matters a ton. Okay. And it's traffic, conversion, retention. In business, like it's kind of like a water pipe. I'll kind of like, I won't draw it, but it's basically like a water pipe. Just imagine a water pipe in your brain. And at the top of that water pipe, water's flowing down, and that's the traffic. The traffic is the water flowing through the pipe, right? Conversion is like the actual pipe, and there's no cracks, and there's more water flowing through the pipe. In business, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get more water down the pipe. You're trying to make the pipe bigger so that more water can flow down it, and you want to make sure that the water is actually getting caught in the bucket, right? And the water is circulating in the bucket that you're trying to catch it into, because it's like a pipe and then it leads into a bucket, and that's retention. Retention is keeping the people, okay? And the reason why you're trying to do that is because it's much, much, much better to sell to existing customers and keep existing customers paying money than it is new customers. Trying to convince someone to give you the first dollar is 10 million billion jillion times harder than convincing someone to give you the next dollar. Right? It's like, hey, you're already in here. What about this? Right? I've made most of my money selling to existing customers. Right? Hey, I see that you bought this. Would you like more of this? Makes more money. Right? And the cool thing that I like to think about with traffic, conversion, retention, the water bucket thing, is that it all boils down to numbers. Right? For example, traffic is clicks. Right? So if you want to make more money and everything else is optimized, you simply need more clicks at the top of the funnel. Right? And for creators, that's more views on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, etc., Twitter, X, I guess. Right? You just need more views. And then the next thing is, once you start getting more views, you need to convert those people higher. That's where the copywriting comes in, and it's extremely important. Sales copy is extremely important right there. Right? Copywriting is important at the top of the funnel too, where it's traffic coming down. You want to make sure that you're grabbing a lot of attention, a lot of eyeballs. Right? And then you're nurturing those eyeballs, bringing them in and converting them. And then at the very end of the pipe, and this is what most people forget about, is the actual bucket at the end, right? You want to make sure that bucket is feeding you and your family for a lifetime. Not for a few days, but a lifetime. Because if that bucket is feeding you for a lifetime and you can drink off of it every single day, my friend, you have a well, not a bucket, right? And you could drink from it, okay? Customers will feed you and your family, right? Customers will make you wealthy, 100%. Okay, so that's retention. All right, tip number 25, customers over leads. This is pretty redundant, but again, customers are probably 15 times more valuable than leads. A really good hack, I'll give you a hack here. If you sign a client and they have existing customers and then they have a leads list, look at how many customers they have and go after people who have a fuck ton of customers, right? And they're trying to make even more money. Like for example, one of my friends, actually my previous client, he has around 1,700 paying customers at $75 per month. And he's never sold any of them anything more, right? I could easily come in there. If I really was on the street and I needed to make money tomorrow, I would hit him up and I would be like, hey, I need to make some money. Would you like to make a lot more money? He would obviously say yes. And then I would sell maybe a $3,000 to $5,000 product to the people that are already paying $75 per month. And what would I sell them? I would sell them more of what they've already bought, right? It could be more help from him specifically, right? It could be a whole coaching program on the back, right? Those customers are going to buy a high percentage of them, right? And how I know this is because with the thing that I sold, we had a 27% ascension rate. So that means every single person who paid us $500 would pay us, right? Like 27% of them would pay us $3,000, right? That's crazy. And the reason why is because the product was actually good. So what I'm saying here is if you're going to partner with a creator, you should also make sure the product is really good. You could write copy to make sure the product is really good. Help them with their onboarding. Help them with their user experience. When they go through the experience, they're getting emails that tell them exactly where to go, exactly how to use it, right? Make it fun. One of my favorite things is building digital products. I love building digital products. It's a lot of fun, okay? It's extremely important, all right? That's an insane hack. Like if you want to make any business a lot of money, if they have a lot of customers already, like for example, one of my friends in person, he has a soccer coaching business, right? Soccer coaching. He's never done any advertising at all. In fact, he's gotten all of his clients through referrals, right? He has over 100 clients. I told him that if you follow the step-by-step launch strategy that's in my free course on YouTube, you'll make $50,000, right? And I know for a fact he'll do it because those people have all paid him around $8,000 already, and he hasn't sold them any more stuff. He just sold them one-off trainings. It's crazy, right? So that's customers versus leads. All right, tip number 26, 10 words is greater than 100 words, right? This is something that I've actually had to work on recently, and it's that like 10 words literally can hold the weight of 1,000 words. And it's really interesting. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the way to understand this concept is to write 1,000 words. This is great. Watch this. So if you want to write like really hard-hitting posts or tweets or something like that, I've done this for clients. I've done this for myself. You kind of sometimes have to write like a lot, like almost a whole essay. Take the main idea of the whole entire essay, write a 128 character tweet, delete the essay, right? And that's how you simplify your writing, right? Write out a bunch and then take your editing skills and pull a little piece out of it, right? Pull a little gem, a little nugget. Because when you're listening to a podcast or you're listening to a book, right? Most of the time you're only going to get away like 1, 2, 10, 15 gems. And by gems, I mean these are things that you pull from the material that you can put into your brain and immediately apply, right? That is something that you want to give to someone, not a whole bunch of garbage. Don't give them a whole bunch of garbage because if they walk away with garbage, they're not going to like you that much. They're not going to want to spend their time with you. And if they don't spend their time with you, they won't spend their money with you. That's facts, right? So that's why 10 words are greater than 1,000, okay? Tip number 27, write to build, write to sell, write for fun, okay? One of the things I love about copywriting and is because it's writing, right? When I first started off copywriting, I actually didn't enjoy writing at all, believe it or not, right? Until I learned how to write to sell. And then I learned how to write to actually build products, right? Because building products is actually simply just writing, right? And then presenting that writing. For example, this video was created because I wrote a bunch of stuff for 2 weeks before this video was created. Took lots of walks, thought of lots of ideas for this one video. That's why there's so many points in it, right? And then I started realizing, oh, I love writing because what I actually do, like I said before, ideating is writing. I love to go for a walk, get ideas, and write them down. Because the coolest thing about that is I'm an extremely creative person. What happens with me is I have 1,000 ideas a second, okay? But one of the best things I love to do is I love to take an idea, write it down, and forget about it. Because then I can come back to it and be like, is that a good idea to add to this video? Is it a good idea to add to this sales letter? Is that a good idea to add to this video sales letter? Right? I love doing that. It's creative, right? Because one of the most important, the most important skill set to develop as a copywriter is to be extremely creative, right? For salespeople, it's charisma. For copywriters, it's creativity, right? So write for fun, right? Another thing you could do, this is another side tip that I've done before, is read like fiction books. If you read some fiction books, you'll actually start like getting some good ideas of writing. It'll start like jogging your brain, because what happens to be more creative, when you're reading a book, you have to like kind of like, not like watching TV, but reading a book, like you have to visualize it in your head for the story to actually like mesh out. And this is also a great way to learn storytelling, is to read not nonfiction, but fiction books, right? It starts popping up in your brain. Your brain's like a projector, right? That is a natural human innate ability that like nothing else has. It's like God-given, and you should use it, right? And you should use that creativity to make money, right? That's how you train creativity, right? And then you could just write for fun, okay? So now we're in year 4. These are like the very advanced, like cool, very good tips, all right? So this is my next point, is there's 4 primary drivers that motivate humans to take action. And that is survival, reproduction, safety, and status. Okay? There's a book over there called Sapiens, and it's like 500 pages. And it's damn near like a whole history book. Like it actually is a whole history book, and it's on human evolution. And humans are driven by survival, reproduction, safety, and status. Right? Survival is the biggest driving primary factor. Right? If you're watching this video right now, chances are you're trying to learn how to make more money. Right? And the reason why you're trying to make more money is because you want to survive. You don't want to be homeless. You don't want your family to be homeless. You don't want your family to be bad off in the future. You want to have financial freedom, the freedom to not have to actually think about money. And this also correlates with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? I could get into that, but that's a whole different other thing. But survival is one of the most important like prerequisite things that humans need to prosper and evolve, right? Because you can't reproduce unless you survive, right? And like, for example, if you're a male, females aren't attracted to you if you have no money. It's not because they're gold diggers. It's because they want something that's stable. Because females, if you look at this right here, females actually value safety, right? They value safety. They want to be able to have a baby, right, with a male that can provide for them. And the reason why they want a male to be able to provide for them is so that because when they have a baby, they're put in danger. Right? They're less likely to survive when they have a baby, because they have to actually defend themselves with a baby, right? Like back in the old days, in the tribal days, they had to like carry the baby on their stomach as they're hunting for animals. So they want men to provide for them and protect them, right? But if you're not good at survival, you won't be able to have a female. It's just like that, right? And that's why females are attracted to status, because if you have status, that means you've mastered survival, right? And that means that you have all the stuff, right? You're better than all the other males. Females are attracted to status because they know that those men are very likely to provide for them, very likely to be able to help them survive, right? And that is what allows males and females to reproduce, right? That's like the primary driver, right? So when you're writing copy, you should be aware of all these things. If you're writing for men, you should appeal to status more. You should wear a Rolex. You should buy a Lambo. You should be in a mansion, right? If you're trying to appeal to females, you need to provide them safety. Make sure it's okay for them. It's going to be okay. It's more of a pull rather than a push. Men are very easily pushed by motivation. And honestly, like over the past few years, I've had a hard time selling to women because I'm a very pushy guy, right? I easily appeal to men. Most of the people watching my YouTube channel are all men, right? You watching this video, you're probably a man. And if you're a female, shout out to you because I'm working on it, right? I've helped a few females, right? It's great. I love working with females because it makes me more versatile. I love it, right? But as a marketer, you really have to stretch yourself and try to like if you're a male, you really have to start like figuring out how to sell to females because you're most of the time you're missing out on 50% of your revenue if you're pushing away females. That's dumb. Like that's really dumb. Okay, but if you can learn survival, reproduction, safety, status, right, and think about those things when you're writing copy, you'll do a lot better. Like for example, don't tell people to quit their job to go all in on X thing, because they're not going to want to buy your thing because you told them that they should quit their job. When you could simply say, hey, this thing's going to make you extra money, right? And you can still have your job, right? That you've worked super hard to get your entire life. And then eventually once you're ready, you can finally get out of it once you have some more safety, right? And if you're appealing to men, it's like, hey, I have a Rolex and I have a Lambo, blah, 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 blah. It appeals to them. It gets attention, right? I don't do most of that stuff because I'm trying to appeal to both, right? So that's tip number 28. Now, tip number 29 is one of my favorites. This thing changed my life. These 6 triggers, like if you actually understand these things, and there's another book over there called Influence, you've probably heard of it before. And these are the 6 psychological triggers that get people to buy shit. They just do. Okay. And that is social proof, scarcity, reciprocity, commitment and consistency, authority, and likeness. Okay. When you use these all together, you're very likely to influence somebody, very likely to get them to take action, very likely to get them to comply. Okay. With social proof, I can boil it down all into monkeys, right? Because this is how monkeys think. You can see monkey behavior is similar to human behavior. With social proof, where monkey see, monkey do. That's social proof right there. Monkey see, monkey do. When monkey see bananas running out, monkey needs to grab the last banana. That's scarcity. Scarcity is enacted. Humans start panicking when it comes down to the last thing. So if you're selling something, when you limit the spots and the last spot's there, 2 spots, 3 spots left, time's running out, people are going to act, people are going to comply because it is the last and final chance they have. For example, when Coca-Cola, this was a huge thing, Coca-Cola changed the flavor of the old Coke to the new Coke, and everyone flipped the fuck out. The reason why was not because the Coke tasted better. Like scientifically and through all their tests, Coca-Cola tested it, the new Coke was actually tasted way better than the old Coke. But simply because they announced it and said the old Coke is no longer like here, people flipped out because they wanted the old Coke. And now their whole messaging is like Coca-Cola Classic, like same taste, something, I can't remember. It's like, I think it's like part of their messaging now, right? Then you have reciprocity, right? Where if monkey give me 8 bananas, I'm going to feel like I need to give monkey 5 bananas back, right? If someone gives to you, you're going to feel the need to give back, right? That's why it's extremely dangerous for women to sit at bars and accept drinks from men, because obviously the intention there is not always great from the men's side, right? Like women have to be extraordinarily careful with that, because like if you're a man, you know, if you buy them a drink or do something for them, you might get lucky. It's just that. Commitment and consistency. This is one of my favorite ones because it's something that can trap you in your life and it can also do a lot of good for you. So relating it back to monkeys again, is monkey eat banana once, monkey eat banana twice, monkey eat banana for life, right? The habits you do, the things you do, you're going to stay consistent with those habits. Anything you commit to, you're going to stay consistent with them. Where monkey live, monkey will always live. Monkey always have lived this. Oh, monkey always know this, right? Monkey always do this, right? You have to be very careful with those things, because if you always do something but that thing is bad for you, you need to probably check that thing and say, why am I doing this? Right? That's something I do a lot. I always ask myself, why do I believe this? Right? For example, a very big money belief, and if you're watching this far, I hope you could take this and not challenge you too hard with this belief, but it's the belief that you need to respect money. It's the belief that you won't always have money. It's the belief that that was probably rubbed off from your parents, right? They work a job, they work for an hourly rate, they go to work, they get paid. That $10 is worth an hour to them. $10 is not worth an hour to me. $10 is worth nothing to me. I have no emotional attachment to money. I will blow $300,000 in a house if I want to, right? And the matter of the fact is, I just don't care because my time is not attached to money. Therefore, I don't feel like scarce. That the thing that they feel is scarcity. They worked X amount of hours. They only have so much time. The time is scarce. They must hold on to their money. That is how the government keeps you trapped, right? And people who are committed to that ideology, committed to those beliefs, keep those beliefs, and they will keep acting in the way that those beliefs have taught them. Very dangerous. Because if you think like that and you respect money and you're very like servant to money, it shows that you're not actually worth like what you're really worth. Why is it that someone can win a lawsuit and be infinitely more rich than you with less time? Right? That's just a false belief. And a lot of us have these beliefs in our heads, right, that cause us from not getting what we want in life. And that's commitment and consistency. Because those people were our parents, we don't question those beliefs. That commitment of them being our parents, we don't question them because they are an authority. That brings me into my next point, is authority, right? I always question authority, right? Ever since I was a kid and in class and everything, I would always question authority. Why should they tell me how to live my life? Right? I was pretty contrarian. I wasn't like the normal kid. So I wasn't like the I'll go to class, do this, do X, Y, and Z. I wasn't that kid. I just wasn't, right? But the reason why most people listen to authority is the same reason why if you go to a doctor and they tell you to bend over, you're going to bend over. Simple as that. We've all been there. And it's simply because they have a doctor's coat on. Believe it or not, if a doctor secretly got into the doctor's office and that same doctor was wearing a cloak and they weren't actually a certified doctor and they told you to bend over, you would still do it because you associate a doctor's uniform with authority. Therefore, you listen to authority. That's why it's actually, I'm pretty sure like there are some type of laws now with putting doctors in medicine commercials or like just pills, like trying to sell pills in commercials. I don't think you've probably never seen doctors in those commercials because I'm pretty sure it's illegal, right? Because those commercials are so effective, like putting fake doctors, like actors, right? Even in TV shows, people will believe like Grey's Anatomy. People will believe things from Grey's Anatomy that are like medical. Because, like literally, like they'll watch Grey's Anatomy, and they'll be like, "Oh, I need to get this checked because that's what happened to them." When it's a TV show filled with actors wearing doctors' uniforms. Interesting, right? Same thing with police. That's why it's illegal to. I believe it was like something with the army. I think it's like stolen valor. That's also illegal, right? And then there's likeness. Likeness is the equivalent to authority, but instead of it being someone like of an authority who's above you, who we believe knows more than us, it is likeness. It's a friend, someone we enjoy, someone we like. Be careful listening to your friends because if you've ever heard the saying, you will be the sum of the 5 people you hang around, that saying is true. And the reason why it is true is because of likeness, right? I wrote an email about this last week actually. And how the likeness principle works is if our friend says something and we love our friend dearly, we're going to abide by that friend's belief. For example, I have this black eye on my face that you've probably noticed in this video. And I basically so how it happened is I went down a hill, right? Or I was snowboarding this past weekend. Nothing happened. Like I didn't get beat up. So I was basically following my friends on the snowboard. I was pretty new to it. I went down the first hill fine. I was pretty good. But then I saw my friend like send it. I was like, that's the homie. He just sent it. Like, oh my God, like Drew's sending it. Holy shit. And he goes he's blasting down the mountain. And I'm like, I could do that. That's the homie Drew. Like, I got that. Followed him. Went too fast. Didn't know my brakes. Smacked my face on ice. Because he's my friend, I did what he did. I followed the same path. Be careful who you follow. Those are some of my good friends, right? And when I was younger, I had a bad problem of hanging out with the wrong people. And they did the wrong things, but the only people who actually saved me from that was an authority, my parents. They dragged me away from it. I hated them at the time for it, but it's kind of like there's a quote where it's like when I was 14, my father, I thought my father was so ignorant. When I was 21, I was surprised at how much he's learned in 7 years. I think it's Mark Twain. There's a Mark Twain quote about my father, and it's because like your friends can alter the way you think because you like them so much more than authority. You don't want to listen to authority. That's that. Those are the 6 triggers. And if you put them in copy and you use these things, right, your copy will get people to comply easily. If you show people social proof, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm buying next. If you say there's one spot left, I'm buying next, right? Like if you give them a lot of value, it's like, I like this guy so much because he's giving me so much value. See how they work together? I gotta buy. Commitment and consistency. I'm an existing customer. I've already been a customer of this guy. He's provided a lot of value and I like this guy and he knows more than me and other people have bought it and there's only one spot left. So I'm going to buy, right? You can see how all of this stuff is actually working together now, right? And all of them can work together. It's awesome, right? The next thing is a launch, right? So with a launch, if you use this framework right here, you'll make a bunch of money. I'll draw it out for you actually, right? So let's take my black out. Boom. So it kind of looks like this. You have an open date. I'm just going to put like an O right here. You have an open date, and then you have a close date, and then you have a special offer. And what a special offer is it's something that you basically put together specifically for a launch. And you might have seen things where people essentially like, you'll see like an email list copy or something like that where they're like, oh, this date's like coming up soon and shit like that, right? And you've probably seen this on your email list before. It looks like this, right? I've made so much money with this formula, by the way. Boom. All right. So it kind of looks like this. You mention a date for a very long period of time, and then people start paying attention to that date, right? And you use the 6 core psychological triggers. within this like thing, and within 3 to 5 days, you do a launch and make a special offer, right? So you open the offer and you say, hey, this date's coming up, this date's coming up, this date's coming up. People are going to look forward to that date like crazy, right? And then they're all going to buy, just like a lot of people will buy just simply because you're making a special offer to them on a specific date, right? And then there's a close date over here. So May 15th through May 20th, right? May 15th opens. Hey, here's this new special offer, right? You can, usually this program that I'm selling right now is $1,000, but you can get it right now for $500. OMG, I got to get in right now. And then there's a few people that get in the trough as you email them. And then on the very last day, you'll make like 50% of your sales by saying, hey, there's no more spots left. The thing is closing right now. Get in right now. This framework made me like a ton of money. I have a bunch of videos on this framework, so I'm not going to get super deep into it. But the tip here, basically it's like a more advanced tip, is to use that framework, right? If you use that launch framework that I just showed you, right, you will be able to take any offer, any creator that you work with, and you'll simply be able to make money very fast because you're simply putting together a date, making a special offer, and closing it. It's as simple as that. And if they have an email list of existing people already, you're pretty much a human money printer. And if you use AI with all of that stuff, you're a human money printer that didn't even do any work, and they don't even need to know that. It's crazy, right? And that's what a lot of people do. All promotions are basically short launches, right? All like new products are launches. Like for example, Apple launches once a year. Huge copywriting event for Apple, of course, but they have a massive brand of recurring customers that buy the next iPhone no matter what, right? They constantly mention a date when the new iPhone's coming out, the new iPhone's coming out, the new iPhone's coming out, the new iPhone, and then they have this big event, right? And then they open it, and sometimes they have a special offer, and most of the time, Apple doesn't need one, right? Car companies do this, Tesla, Facebook, there's all kinds of different companies that do this. Any event, right, typically is doing something like this. Webinars are literally that formula. Like if you've ever been to a free class or a webinar, it's like come to the free class, it opens, give them some free value, sell them something at the end of it. All copywriting. And then once you close on the webinar, they typically have 3 more days to buy it through emails, and then they hard close on the emails. And then a lot of times the person just runs the webinar the next week. I've done 75 of those webinars. I know exactly how they work. Like it's insane. I promise. Right? They make a ton of money because of that framework. Okay? Dope. And people buy, the reason why this works is because of this, right? Scarcity, reciprocity, social proof. Like social proof, other people are buying, get in on the launch, right? Scarcity, there's only X amount of time left. Reciprocity, like I gave you all this value before the date, so come in. Like commitment, consistency, like you've already been committed to this for a long time. Like if you've watched a whole free class, you might as well buy at the end of the webinar. Authority, right? This person's obviously knows more than me. I like this guy, right? It all works together. Okay? The next thing is this. It's called the buying pocket. I'll actually show you what this looks like. So I'll draw another thing. And this is basically what copywriting is from the furthest level view. So you have someone's current situation. You have their desired situation, right? I'm going to kind of do this right here. Don't worry about it, right? Green. I'm actually going to use blue. There we go. So this is the dreamland, desired. And then this is current over here. This is where they're currently at. And they're kind of stuck. And then there's the buying pocket. Okay, so basically what this is if you push someone into this buying pocket right here, they will give you money. All right? And what I mean by this is over here is they're staying where they're currently at, right? Their situation sucks. They're currently not making any money, right? X, Y, and Z, right? Same thing. Like currently not making any money, very upset with their situation, want to move out of their parents' house, but they're stuck in their parents' house. There's all kinds of different things in their current situation that there's a lot of pain there, right? And then on the other side of that is their desired situation. Okay, their desired situation is they want a Lambo, a watch, they would love to have freedom, time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom, et cetera, right? Pretty plain, vanilla, and simple, right? And to get there from point A to point B, right, point C to point D, is to get there, the bridge is your offer, right? But when you're selling with copywriting or selling in general, what you need to do is you need to push them into the buying pocket. And what I mean by that is when you get on a sales call or when you're writing copy, you want to write in a way that gets them to believe that your solution is awesome, right? So you're going to show them how it works, tell them all about it, but you don't want them to believe too much where like right here, where they could do it on their own. Like I'm just going to like do it on my own. I'm like feeling awesome. I'm just going to do it on my own, right? And then there's this other side over here where if you push them away too much and tell them like, oh, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to do, like X, Y, and Z, it's going to be a lot of steps that gets them to buy. And they're like, nah, I don't know if I could do that. I don't believe in myself. But then there's this sweet spot right here where it's like, you know, I don't think I could do it on my own, but I believe I can do it. I know I can do it, but I definitely I need your help. And that's what we need right here to get people's money. To get people's money is we need them to believe that they need our help. That's why people make super long, confusing YouTube videos to overcomplicate things to get you to buy their products, because you believe you can get there because you've watched so many other videos and seen so many other people do it. But you're like, I don't know if I could do all that. Like, I need the exact steps. I'm confused. And then you're in the buying pocket where you're going to buy someone's course. Simple as that. That's what it is, right? It's pretty dangerous to fall in as a consumer if you're buying the wrong products. But if you're buying the right products, that's what it is. Now, here's the next point. That's 31. 32. 4 reasons why people don't buy. So if you do that and they don't buy, there's 4 reasons. There's need, trust, false beliefs, and money, right? Money being the most important one, the easiest one to fall for, right? Or I guess not fall for, but the most common. I'll start with money. Most people just can't afford stuff. They just can't, right? So one of the most important jobs of marketing is to make sure that qualified leads are coming in the door, right? Like if you're a copywriter and you're writing YouTube scripts, you shouldn't be writing scripts that attract poor people, right? Because poor people have no money. They can't buy your products. Sorry to poor people. And if you're poor watching this video, that's fine. You're at a stage in your journey. That's great, right? But I'm more likely to sell like a 50-year-old person a $7,000 product than a 12-year-old, right? A lot of guys I know that are making $1 million a month aren't selling $50 a month communities to 14-year-olds. They're selling big packages to older people, right? Simple as that. So that's going to make more money, okay? So I'm going to go back up to need, right? The next thing is they don't need it, right? If you're talking to someone who doesn't actually need something that you're selling them, they're not going to buy. For example, if you do a giveaway, this is the dumbest thing I see all the time. To get people on a webinar, you do a giveaway. It's like, I'm giving away AirPods, or I'm giving away this, or I'm giving away a watch, right? If you do a giveaway, you are going to get the worst people because those people are all poor, for one. And then number 2, they don't actually care about what you're selling. They don't need it. They don't actually need what you're selling them because they're simply there for needing the giveaway. They just want the giveaway, right? That's why giveaways are dumb. They need to actually need the product, right? You can't sell wheelchairs to people who can use their legs. Like it's actually that simple. Like, don't sell wheelchairs to people who can physically use their legs, right? And then there's trust, right? The next thing is trust. People will not buy if they don't trust you. And what I mean by that is they won't believe that the product is as good as you say it is. So if you're working with a creator and that creator has no trust, they've probably scammed their audience before or something like that, they won't believe that your product is actually as good as you say it is, even if it is, because they don't trust you. A great way to build trust is reciprocity. A great way of building trust is to disarm them and tell them that you're not going to sell them something. Look at what Hormozy has done. Hormozy, like if you've seen his journey, this guy has completely told everyone, I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling anything. Then you go to his event that's already $5,000 and he pitches you a $50,000 package. Very smart, right? He's not selling anything, but he does have an event. And then for those very small people, he is selling something for $50K. So he did stop doing that messaging, but that's how he initially blew up, right? The next thing is false beliefs, right? False beliefs are the things getting in the way of people buying your products. It goes back to the buying pocket. If people do not believe that they could do something, they won't do it with you. They won't do it themselves, and they won't do it with you. So they need to believe that they can actually do something. They can actually do it, right? They can commit to something. Like if I don't believe I can get abs in 12 weeks, I'm not going to buy your product, abs in 12-week formula. I'm not going to buy it because I don't believe I could do it. But if you convince me that your method is like actually proven to get abs in 12 weeks for anyone, and you can be super overweight and still get abs, I'm going to buy it, right? Very simple. Okay. Those 4 reasons are awesome because if you know these 4 reasons, you could reverse engineer why people don't buy and make them buy, right? You could solve those objections. The next thing is to develop a closed tool belt, right? So when you're writing copy, this is like 2 choices, 30K Ferrari, etc. I'm about to explain this in a second. This is one of my favorite things of all time in copy, but it's to develop a tool belt. And then by tool belt, I mean what I talked about in the beginning of this video, and it's to have like a swipe file of stuff that you use in your copy. It's kind of like when I played basketball, right? I was a post player, and what a post player is the big guy down in the boards, right? Because I'm 6'5". If I stood up right now, you'd be like, oh shit. Like, okay, so basically, as the post player, you have these post moves, right? You can go on the inside, you can give them a little fake, and they jump, and then you go around them, right? And then, or you can like hit a little dribble back, post fade, boom, put it in the basket. Or you can like kind of like hobble stop, boom, put it in the basket, like up and over. When you're writing copy, you want to have these tricks up your belt, right? You want to understand the principles and then be able to use the tricks. But if you use the tricks without the principles, you'll fail, right? You don't want to like learn how to, if you know basketball, jelly is like, instead of doing a basic layup, you're going, oh, and then you're putting it in the basket like that. It's kind of stupid, but it's just a flex, right? But then there's also those tricks where it's like an actual trick where they jump, and if they jump, you're getting the basket all day long on a fundamental layup, right? So one of these is like, for example, the 2 choices framework close. Like what I like to do at the end of the copy, it's like you have 2 choices, right? I've just laid out everything for you here today. Like after you've heard everything and you're super convinced, you can close your laptop, close your phone, and you can act like this conversation never happened, right? And you can just go off on your own and maybe never change your life. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, right? I'm relating back to the buying pocket. Or you can jump in here and you can get abs in 12 weeks. And I will guarantee that, right? Another thing is the 30K Ferrari. If someone says something's too expensive, you can pull something out like, okay, so if I was selling a $300,000 Ferrari, I want you to imagine that product that I just showed you with all that value, I want you to imagine that thing's a Ferrari. How much is a Ferrari worth? They're like, oh, it's like probably like $300,000, like $500,000. Like, okay, so if I was selling that Ferrari for $30,000, okay, would you find the money? Yes, I would absolutely find the money because I could go sell that car. I could keep it for a big discount, right? Same thing goes for your product. When you're selling any product, you're selling a bunch of value, a bunch of stuff at a massive discount. That's what business is. To get a business transaction done, what you're doing is you're giving someone a ton of value that they can tangibly use that should be like, you should charge $100,000 for it, but realistically it's only $100, right? That's that. Though you need to learn those closes, develop them, put them in your swipe file and keep them, right? Another one of those like basic tips is like, don't make statements, ask questions. Like, for example, what I just did, I could have said, instead of saying, what if I had a Ferrari? How much is that worth? You're literally going to sit there and be like, oh, it's probably worth $300,000, right? You are telling me that. Instead of me being like, oh, well, would you buy a $300,000 Ferrari for $30K? Right? No one's going to listen to that. They're going to be like, fuck off, right? Go away, right? So what you should do is you should ask some questions so they can come to their own conclusions. Same thing with a sales call. When you're on a sales call, you don't sit there and blab. You don't sit there and talk. When you're on a sales call, you should be talking 10% of the time. Let them talk. Ask them questions so they can talk even more, right? One of my favorite questions on a sales call is why? like why? They're like, I never thought about that, right? Another thing too is like, don't ask someone, do you have any questions? The response to do you have any questions is yes or no. The response to what questions do you have is, oh, what questions do I have? They get to thinking, you give them some time, and then they're like, what about this? And if you solve that objection before you ask for the sale, they're going to buy. It's that simple, right? You must ask questions. That's another thing on your tool belt. You'll start developing these things in copywriting. You'll become a much better copywriter, like you'll be like 15 million times better, like 100%. Okay. So the next thing is tip number 35, right? Shift your paradigm to shift theirs. What I mean by this is everyone has a paradigm. What a paradigm is it is essentially, imagine all the beliefs you have, like the scarcity mindset I just talked about. Imagine you have beliefs about selling things. You have beliefs about X, Y, and Z. Everyone has like a bucket of beliefs in their head, or like a bundle of beliefs. And to unravel someone else's beliefs with copywriting, right? Some of the best copywriters I know simply just work on themselves all the time, and they're really good self-development people or self-improvement people, because when they go sell something to someone, they sell a transformation, they have an energy about them that's like, I did this, so here's what I'm going to do for you. You got to have that conviction. Conviction is the ability to believe, the confidence that you can actually change someone's life, right? The reason why I've sold so many like products especially in the self-improvement, make money space, is because I've done it myself. I've done that, right? That's why I'm able to convince people that, hey, this actually works. Why? Because I fucking did it. I actually did it. Conviction, right? I had to shift my own beliefs. I had to get rid of all the beliefs my parents gave me, my teachers gave me, my coaches from basketball gave me, right? I had to unravel all of those beliefs to get what I wanted in life. And if I can unravel someone else's beliefs by telling them stories through copy, right, they'll buy my products. Simple as that. So if you're closed-minded and you don't shift your own paradigm and you don't work on yourself, right, and you're on social media scrolling and adopting more bad beliefs, you're not going to get anywhere. In fact, you'll stay stagnant, and then you'll ask why. And you'll feel sad when you come up with the answer, right? The last thing on shifting paradigms is, after looking at 4 years of copywriting, all this stuff, the last thing I'll say and last thing I'll leave with is time is all you need to succeed. I know this sounds basic, right? But I swear to God, right? If I were to look back at my entire journey and said, what was the number one thing that got me to where I am today? It is that I spent 4 years learning all of this. And after watching this video, I hope that you took all of this, right? And you actually apply it, right? And you actually make money with this, right? Because it took me a lot of time to learn all of this. And it'll take you some time as well. Okay, so when in doubt, zoom out, right? If you're doing stock trading, you're not going to look at the stock on the day. You're going to zoom out and look at it on how it is overall, right? Now, if you want the download for all of these points, you can get them below this video and like literally try to brainwash yourself using these points. Remember them.